1 million is a very large number. It would take about 12 days to count to 1 million. Yad Jaren farmed 50 million cookies in 100 days, which is about 6 cookies a second. That's the most cookies ever farmed by one person in vanilla Minecraft. I wanted to double it, but as I worked on the project, I realized I was simply mimicking it, but slower and worse, which would not be entertaining. 1 billion is a much larger number than 1 million. It would take about 31 years to count to 1 billion if you never stopped and never lost your place. No one has ever farmed 1 billion cookies in vanilla Minecraft. It's simply impractical and pointless. While 1 billion is a very large number and hard to comprehend, it is rather inconsequential when compared to 1 trillion. 31 years is a lot, but most people live through that as many as 2 times in their life. It would take 31,000 years to count to 1 trillion. That's not just longer than a lifespan. That's 6 times longer than recorded human history. It's a significant portion of the US national debt, and I want to farm 1 trillion cookies in Minecraft. Now, if I wanted to use Yad Jaren's method to farm cookies in vanilla, and I did it 10 or even 100 times better, it would still take 5,000 to 500, depending on how much better I did it, years. There is no feasible method for quickly creating cookies in vanilla Minecraft that would make this even feasibly possible. So I downloaded all the mods 10. While most people try to craft the ATM star, I'm going to create 1 trillion cookies. I originally thought I might be able to abuse this duplication bug with a briefcase and just mass produce cookies that way, but it turned out to be extremely slow compared to the theoretical farm I could make, so that idea was scrapped. The first hurdle was actually going to be collecting a lot of resources, but that is instantly followed by storage space. Refined Storage is a fantastic mod for creating storage space, but its largest storage component is only 1 billion large. Each one costing tens of thousands of iron, thousands of gold, hundreds of diamonds, and over a dozen nether stars. I needed 1,000 of those to create 1 trillion storage. Mystical Agriculture is a beautiful mod that allows the mass production of nearly any resource, given time and initial capital. And as you invest into Mystical Agriculture, your value will only grow. Using a complex system, I will slowly create all the storage components necessary for 1 trillion storage, and then I will transition my farm into cookie production for a nice and succinct manufacturing process. Before I can even think of a system of mass production, I must procure assets through the efficient, systematic commandeering of my environment, optimizing workflow and productivity for success, which puts me here, in the middle of a forest with nothing. So we start on the factory, mainly just the startup capital necessary for a launching point. The main resources we are going to need are Infernum Essence and Prosperity Shards, plus any of the general materials I want to mass produce. Biggest goal at this point was just refined storage. Not the 1 trillion storage, but a place to put all of my items so I would never need to worry about chests. Luckily, Refined Storage and Power create a very simple dynamic of easy, compact storage. Power has thermal generators that make slow but infinite power from a lava source block, and in a single Refined Storage disk thing, which is just 1 block large, you can store as much as about 6.5 billion storage. My first method for farming is going to be cloches from Immersive Engineering. They are by no means the fastest method of farming, but for now it is much quicker than anything I can afford. All you need is the seed, farmland, power, and water. Power is easy with the thermo generators I showed earlier, and water can be produced infinitely with a kitchen sink. Then some auto crafters that create Supremium Essence, and I can auto produce what will be the foundation of everything I do in this mod pack. I also begin using growth accelerators to optimize the production of diamonds and other resources that I need early on. Unfortunately, growth accelerators are expensive and I can't afford a whole lot of them at this point. Growth accelerators are kind of funny. Let me give you an idea for how much exactly one Supremium accelerator costs. Each one is about 1600 Infernum Essence. Infernum Essence is farmed in the same way that wheat is, so imagine farming 1600 wheat. Not that bad, right? Well, they also need 2 Prosperity Shards, which must be mined. With Max Fortune, I get around 10 shards for what is essentially a single iron ore. But I need 9 Supremium growth accelerators for 1 crop. Not to mention all of the other tiers of growth accelerators that all need the same amount of Prosperity Shards, but a little less wheat. So each individual crop I want to accelerate is going to cost the equivalent of 50,000-ish wheat and 9 iron ore. I need well over 10,000 of these, with conservative estimates hitting 1 billion wheat and 180,000 iron ore. These harvesters are also crazy because they harvest a 9x9 area without needing power. Little did I know at this time of my life that my entire existence would be predicated upon growth accelerators and harvesters. I fought the Wither, which you would think is easy with Supremium gear, but it was in fact not. I died. Twice. Maybe more. With all of that out of the way, it's time to start building my storage. I could start on the cookies, but I kind of already have. There's 17 million sitting in an IMI system somewhere, but there's no point in farming cookies if I don't have anywhere to put them. So my first order of business is crafting the 1 trillion storage. Of course, the auto crafters need fueled by resources, which means I need more seeds from mystical agriculture. I gotta say, this is the most annoying part of anything I've been doing. And I also need growth accelerators to make it faster. So I made this, the ultimate farm. Soon I'll add applied energistics growth accelerators to make it go even faster. That's why every other spot is empty. I need a place to put those. This really is a beautiful design. I'm producing around 32,000 storage an hour, which isn't much, but it is a very good start. Everything can be crafted by growing it, except for, of course, glass. Why wouldn't you know that? But sand and coal can both be crafted, so that isn't really a problem, just an extra step. Here's where the biggest wrench is thrown in my plan. Prosperity shards. There's no seed to make them, and they are necessary for growth accelerators and seeds, and any of the prosperity things I want to make. Which means I have to mine them manually. And I have to mine a lot of them manually. Once I realized the sheer scale of what I was going to need for my plan, there was a noticeable change in the shape of my farm. Applied energistics growth accelerators were simply not worth the time investment for several reasons, so one massive block of a farm seemed best suited for my goal. I also got awakened growth accelerators for this, but I scrapped that going forward because they were a huge pain and also were not a large increase in speed. At this point, I was producing hundreds of thousands of storage per hour and needed to expand my auto crafting system, or else it would get clogged up. The way this actually works is that I make 4 of the raw processors for each individual storage component and then cook them to produce the actual processor, which can then be used to upgrade 3 storage components into the next tier of storage component. About 2 or 3 auto crafters can do each individual piece of the puzzle. The final auto crafter, however, can basically do everything itself. See, this one can craft everything up to 16 million storage pieces, which I only need 27,000 of. It's a large number, but it's actually a reasonable amount to store in chests. They also, unlike the previous pieces, all require the same processors, so I don't need to worry about more auto crafting steps. They can each just craft into the next. Once they are all stored, I have a separate farm that is running nether stars, so I will have enough of those to finish the last few layers of crafting. Now my life has become mining prosperity shards and then building the farm, and then mining prosperity shards and then building the farm. At this point, I had about 300 Minecraft days into the game. When all is said and done, I hit 3,000. I've been playing this game for so long. But no use dwelling on that now. You have a YouTube channel, and it is dying without a video. By the way, if you like the video, then like it. If you subscribe it, then subscribe. Now back to my suffering. A lot of what I do going forward boils down to leaving my computer running, coming back to something causing a bottleneck, fixing that bottleneck, and then leaving my computer running again. Which, here you can see is my silicon essence. I go make seeds for silicon, expand my farm with a large quantity of silicon, and then wait to see what the next bottleneck is. Well, I could definitely keep going, but this is really all I need, until thousands of Minecraft days later, I have 1 trillion Minecraft storage. I then hook up the system to all the nether stars I had farmed in an obsolete field I had made. Once I have the trillion storage built, I set it up. Now, all I have to do is convert my farm to cookie production, which is as simple as this auto crafter setup, and every single crop being changed to nature essence. I can craft nature essence into wheat and cocoa beans, which then crafts into cookies. After some more prosperity shards and farm building, I create a farm that makes 10,000 cookies a second, which is 864 million cookies a day. That's a lot of cookies, but it would take nearly 3 years of my real life to finish the project. Of course, accounting for making the farm bigger, I might be able to whittle that down to a year, but with school starting, I definitely don't have time, which leaves me with only one option: smoking the nature essence to make a time spent more enjoyable. As I sit here thinking about the project, something comes to mind. My channel cannot handle 1 to 3 years of no uploads. I have to come up with something that's quicker. I rack my massive brain to come up with something that could possibly make this go quicker, until I realize there's that one stupid glitch. It may be slow with cookies, but what if I could dupe billions of cookies per slot? That previously wasn't possible, but now with the storage components containing 1 billion plus cookies each, I can dupe those. And duping them, I could get 1 trillion cookies in an hour. I don't know what that was, but I had a horrible nightmare. I was duping billions of cookies intentionally, with a well-known and extremely boring bug that could never suffice. However, this farming method is not going to work. So I scoured the internet for more information, and I found industrial I don't know. Whatever it's called. There's a silly little thing it can do. And there's these funny little planters, which can be a little absurd even. First of all, they remove the need for essence-infused farmland, which in some cases is insanely efficient, but more than that, they can go really fast. I had to get involved in a bunch of mods. I squeezed pink slime and meat juice out of zombies, harvested the souls of wardens, sucked the life force out of the wither, all powered by an absurd amount of thermoreactors. I can force feed hydroponic beds with warden souls, wither gas, water, and an absurd amount of energy to create this. It pops out around 20 essence per second, which means each hydroponics bed makes 12 million cookies a day. That's over 1/5 of everything Yadjaren made in his entire video from one farmland in one day. Unfortunately, it would take 228 years for this alone to create 1 trillion cookies, but I made a few. At this point, I would finish in about 2 years, including the other already built farm, obviously, if I did literally nothing. Each machine takes about 10 minutes to build. If I were to account for the time put into building them, I could knock the 1 trillion cookies down to a year. These machines are complex, energy inefficient, but fast. 1 year is an extremely reasonable amount of time, all things considered. And this mod is as fast as things get for farming, but I cannot afford to wait 1 year to upload. I started putting growth simulators into my hydroponics beds. They record growth to make this other thing called a simulated hydroponics bed produce the same seed, but quicker. At best, I could get around 800 million a day before I realized it was kind of pointless. I could make a very big wall of them, but they just simply weren't actually quicker. It felt hopeless. It seemed like no matter what I did, 1 trillion is just an absurd number to reach. I spent 4 months on this project already. Could I spend another year? That's when I realized something. The farm beds weren't receiving the warden souls. The warden souls were technically increasing the tick rate of the machine, and they can increase the tick rate of any machine. While the simulated beds were slow, they were machines. And when I pumped warden souls onto them, they were about 5 times faster than hydroponics beds, and even more importantly, much easier to make. Each one of these machines produces nearly 50 million cookies a day. That means each machine is beating Yadjaren every single day. I started mass producing this machine. I got my cookies per day all the way up to 10 billion in no time. At this rate, if I kept working, I could finish within 2 months, so I added more machines. But my cookies didn't get any faster. I added more crafters, faster pipes, and still no luck. See, I had reached the TPS limit. I have a very powerful computer, but even still, it could only handle so much TPS, which means ticks per second. Minecraft is supposed to run at 20 ticks per second. I was at 10, and it was going down whenever I added things. Unfortunately, my game was pretty well stuck at producing 115,265 cookies per second. No matter what I did, I couldn't increase it. I condensed my reactors to nuclear, made my pipes more efficient, turned off some of my slower farms, and the most I could squeeze out of my computer was 15 billion cookies a day. That's a little over 2 months of waiting, which is reasonable, very reasonable. I could have left it there, could have waited 2 months. But that would have been boring. So I looked into more ways to improve my TPS. I found a mod. In the mod is called Observable. It would let me check the TPS requirements of each individual block, and I could adjust accordingly, so I booted it up. And it crashed. It felt hopeless at this point. I don't even know why it crashed, so I got back onto my world to try again. But I happened to look at my cookies. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what this was, because that's 254 billion. Now, that should have taken me at least 2 months on current pace. Now, earlier that day, I only had 20 billion cookies. When I checked it again, I had 256 billion. Now, I know this might sound strange. Somehow, the game's memory had saved one disk drive over every other disk drive in the crash. I don't know why. I don't know how. I had so many cookies, the game literally manifested more from nothing. So why couldn't I do it again? After all, I have so many cookies, the game's memory literally cannot handle it. Why don't I deserve more? No one deserves cookies like I do. I am the arbiter of the cookie, the beginning and the end. You think 50 million is impressive? You think 100 days is a lot? This project took me 200 days, over 4,000 Minecraft days. If anyone is allowed to manifest cookies from nothing, it is me. I force crashed the world with the same method I had just accidentally caused. And when I loaded back in, ladies and gentlemen, we have 1 trillion cookies. So many cookies that no one can ever contest my place as cookie overlord.